Welcome back to the Premium Coin Deals channel, where today we dive into one of the most fascinating coins in American history. We're talking about the 1961 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark. It might look ordinary to the untrained eye, but what lies beneath its surface could make you a fortune. Yes, you heard that right. This tiny piece of 5-cent metal might just be worth $1 million. Let's dig into the story. The 1961 Jefferson nickel was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike coins from Denver or San Francisco, Philadelphia didn't use a mint mark back then. So when you find a nickel dated 1961 with no mint mark, it's from Philly. Now here's the thing. Hundreds of millions of these nickels were made. To be exact, over 70 million were minted that year in Philadelphia. So what makes one of these coins stand out from the crowd and become worth thousands or even close to $1 million? The answer lies in condition, rarity, and errors. Most of these nickels went into circulation and were used daily. That means they picked up scratches, dings, and wear over time. But once in a while, a coin escapes all of that. It sits in a drawer, it's sealed in a roll, or it's saved by someone who simply had a feeling. When one of these nickels is found in perfect condition, known in the grading world as mint state or MS, that's when things start to get exciting. In 1961, the strike quality from the Philadelphia Mint wasn't always the best. So to find a nickel from that year with a full sharp strike, especially showing all the details of Monticello on the reverse, is very rare. Collectors use a special term for this called full steps. If the steps leading up to the front of Monticello are fully visible and well-defined, that coin is something special. And if the coin is also in mint state 67 or higher, that's when the real money enters the conversation. Take, for example, a 1961 no mint mark nickel graded MS 67 with full steps. One of these coins sold for over $37,000 at auction. That's right, over 37 grand for a 5-cent coin. And that's not even the highest it could go. The truth is, higher grade examples are incredibly rare. Some experts believe a perfect MS 68 with full steps could reach into six figures or even more if a bidding war breaks out. And if a brand new discovery surfaces with an error or double die combined with top grade condition, you could be looking at a record-breaking sale. Now let's talk about what to look for. First, grab a magnifying glass and take a close look at Monticello. Count the steps. If you can see 5 or 6 full steps with no major interruptions, that's a great sign. Next, check for a strong strike overall. Sharp lettering, clear detail in Jefferson's hair and coat, and no signs of wear are key indicators of a high-grade coin. Also, look for luster. A coin with strong original shine hasn't been handled much and might grade well. If you think you've found one of these rare gems, don't clean it. That can destroy its value instantly. Instead, consider sending it to a professional grading service like P or NGC. They'll evaluate it, assign a grade, and if it turns out to be something truly rare, you'll have proof when it comes time to sell. Collectors are always on the hunt for that next big discovery. And as more people go through old jars and inherited coin collections, we're seeing valuable finds make headlines every year. The 1961 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is a perfect example of how history, condition, and a little bit of luck can turn a simple coin into a serious payday. So next time you come across an old nickel, don't just pass it by. Take a closer look, because the next coin worth $1 million might already be in your pocket. We're diving deep into the world of rare coins and uncovering the fascinating story behind a coin that's been in your pocket change all along. The 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark. You heard that right, a 5-cent coin that could be worth thousands, and in some extremely rare cases, even up to $1 million. So make sure you stick around to the very end, because I'll tell you exactly what to look for and how to know if the nickel in your collection could change your life. Now let's start with the basics. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938 and features the profile of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse side with his historic home Monticello on the reverse. In 1974, millions of these nickels were struck by the U.S. Mint, but not all of them are created equal. Most coins minted in Philadelphia and that year don't carry a mint mark, which was standard at the time. So what makes a no mint mark 1974 nickel stand out from the rest? Here's where it gets interesting. While most 1974 nickels without a mint mark are common and only worth face value, a select few have unique characteristics that drive their value sky high. We're talking about high-grade coins with exceptional strike quality, strong details, and flawless surfaces. If your coin is graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC and earns a grade of MS 67 or higher, then you're in for a real surprise. Why is that grade so important? Because the value of a coin skyrockets when it's nearly Perfect. Most coins that come off the press have tiny flaws or weak details, but a coin graded mint state 67 or higher means it's in pristine condition with hardly any imperfections under magnification. Now, let's talk numbers. A typical 1974 no mint mark Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is worth 5 cents, maybe 10 or 15 cents if it's in really nice shape, but if you happen to find a mint state coin that's been certified as MS66, it could fetch anywhere from $50 to $100 depending on appeal and demand. An MS67 coin could easily cross the $500 mark, and a top pop coin, meaning one of the highest graded examples known with no equals, or just one or two known examples in existence, that's where the value shoots into the thousands. In fact, there are reports of coins reaching auction prices of over $10,000 for the finest known specimens, and here's where the $1,000,000 talk comes in. Now, technically, number 1974 no mint mark nickel has sold for a full million. Yet, but experts speculate that if a perfect MS68 or higher example were to surface and be the absolute finest of its kind, especially with a full steps designation, which means the steps on Monticello are fully visible and undisturbed, then collectors with deep pockets would absolutely be willing to pay six figures or more in a future auction with the right bidding war. Who knows, it could be the first Jefferson nickel to break the $1,000,000 ceiling. So what should you be looking for in your spare change? Here's the checklist. First, check the date. You want a 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark under the date. That means it was made in Philadelphia. Next, look at the coin's condition. Is it shiny? Does it have strong details, especially around Jefferson's hair, Monticello's dome, and the steps? If it looks nearly perfect and uncirculated, then it might be worth submitting for grading. But if you want to get serious, you'll need a magnifying glass, or even better, a jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the steps on Monticello. If you can clearly count 5 or 6 full steps with no breaks, that's called a full steps nickel, and that adds a massive premium. Combine full steps with a high mint state grade, and you've got a coin that collectors dream of. And don't forget, even if your coin isn't worth millions, it might still fetch a couple $100, which is not bad for something you found in your junk drawer. So go ahead, check your piggy bank, your pocket change, your old coin jar. You never know what hidden treasure you might find. The next great Jefferson nickel discovery could literally be sitting in your hand right now. 1984 Jefferson nickel with the Philadelphia mint mark. This is the Monticello nickel. And yes, some of these coins have sold for massive amounts. So stick around, because we're talking rarity, errors, hidden value, and exactly what you should look for in your coins. Let's start with the basics. The Jefferson nickel has been minted since 1938, and it features Thomas Jefferson on the front and his iconic home Monticello on the reverse. In 1984, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins. That's right, over 800 million to be exact. So you might ask, how can a coin so common ever be worth big money? Well, here's the twist. It's not just about the year. It's not just about the mint mark. It's all about the details. The coin you need to look for is a 1984 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark that contains a very specific error or condition. And this is where things get interesting. First, let's talk about die errors. These are mistakes made when the coin is being struck at the mint. One of the most valuable varieties in the 1984 Jefferson nickel series is the full steps designation. What does that mean? Look at the Monticello building on the reverse. If you can count 5 or 6 sharp, unbroken steps at the base, you may be looking at a full steps Jefferson nickel. This detail shows that the coin was struck with fresh, high-quality dies and hasn't worn down. Collectors go crazy for this level of detail. Now, combine full steps with a mint error, like a double die, off-center strike, or planchet flaw, and suddenly you've got a coin that jumps in value drastically. 1984 P Jefferson nickel with full steps in pristine condition once sold for over $10,000. And it doesn't stop there. Here's where it gets unbelievable. There are rumors in the collector's world, and recent auction results, of specific 1984 P nickels with rare double die obverse errors and sharply defined full steps that have gone for tens of thousands. And in private sales, there are coins believed to be valued into the 6-figure or even 7-figure range based on extreme rarity and condition. That's right, potentially worth up to $1 million. But how can you tell if your nickel is one of them? First, grab a magnifying glass and inspect the steps on Monticello. If they're full, crisp, and uninterrupted, you're off to a great start. Next, check Jefferson's face and lettering on the obverse for signs of doubling. That's where the letters or numbers appear slightly overlapped. This is called a double die. If you find that, you're dealing with a high-value error coin. Condition is everything. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC are given a grade from 1 to 70. The closer to 70, the more valuable. Mint state 65 and above with full steps can be worth hundreds to thousands of dollars. MS 67 and up? That's when things start getting crazy. Even without an error, a high-grade 1984 P Jefferson nickel with full steps in mint state condition can still bring in serious cash. So check those coin rolls, search through your pocket change, and dig through that old coin jar. You never know, your next nickel could be worth a fortune. And remember, don't clean your coins. That can destroy their value instantly. If you think you have something rare, consult a professional grading service or take it to a reputable coin dealer.so. Is your 1984 Jefferson nickel just 5 cents? Or is it the next $1 million find? That answer might be closer than you think. If you found this video helpful or exciting, smash that like button, subscribe for more coin collecting tips and rare coin stories, and let me know in the comments if you've ever found a valuable coin in your change. 1985 P Jefferson nickel. At first glance, this coin looks like any ordinary 5-cent piece. It was minted in Philadelphia in 1985 and features the familiar image of Thomas Jefferson on the front and his Monticello home on the reverse. But there's more to this coin than meets the eye. What if I told you that certain versions of this nickel could be worth thousands, and in some cases even approach the $1 million mark? Sounds crazy, right? But let's break it down. Over 700 million Jefferson nickels were struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1985. That means there's a ton of them out there, and most of them are worth face value. However, collectors are not just looking for common examples, after the rare ones, the error coins, the high-grade specimens that are almost impossible to find in circulation. The key to unlocking serious value with this coin comes down to 3 things: condition, rarity, and mistakes. Let's start with condition. Grading is everything when it comes to coin collecting. A nickel in average circulated condition might not be worth much at all, but find one in mint state condition, especially with a grade of MS 67 or higher, and suddenly you're looking at serious value. In fact, there are certified examples of the 1985 P Jefferson nickel graded MS 67 that have sold for over $5,000 at auction. These are coins that have barely been touched since the day they were minted. Their surfaces are flawless, the luster is bright, and they show full details, especially in the steps of Monticello on the reverse. Speaking of which, let's talk about the steps. One of the things that collectors specifically look for is what's called a full steps designation. That means the steps on Monticello appear crisp and uninterrupted with no signs of wear or weakness in the strike. A 1985 P Jefferson nickel with full steps in ultra-high mint state condition is extremely rare, and when rarity meets demand, prices start to skyrocket. Now, let's talk about errors. This is where things get really interesting. Error coins are like hidden treasures. They're reproduced when something goes wrong during the minting process. That could be a misstrike, an off-center strike, double die cracks, or even wrong planchet errors. Some of these 1985 P Jefferson nickels have been found with significant die cracks, or even dramatic off-center strikes. Coins like that are highly sought after by collectors and can sell for hundreds or even thousands, depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. And then there's the dream scenario. What if a previously unknown error variety surfaced, or a perfectly preserved example in MS 68 or higher showed up at auction? That's the kind of coin that could easily command 6 figures, or even more if it's truly one of a kind. So, what's the lesson here? The next time you're sorting through your change or rolling up coins for the bank, take a moment to really look. Check the date, check for the P mint mark, examine the condition, the steps, the details. You never know when you might be holding a small coin with a massive price tag, one that could change your life. Even though the 1985 P Jefferson nickel isn't rare, in general, the rare versions within it are worth chasing. That's the beauty of coin collecting. Sometimes it's not about how old something is, it's about how perfect or how flawed it might be. And that combination of rarity and perfection can turn an ordinary nickel into a treasure worth tens of thousands, or even more so. Keep looking, keep collecting, and who knows, the next $1 million nickel could be sitting in your pocket right now. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next hidden gem that could be lurking in your change jar. 1987 D mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickel could be sitting in your pocket change right now. And what if I told you that some of these coins are worth not just hundreds or thousands, but potentially over $1 million? That is right, a simple 5 Cent coin minted in Denver back in 1987 might just change your life. Before we talk about the million-dollar figures, let us break down exactly what this coin is and why it has collectors and investors on high alert. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, and the Monticello design on the reverse is iconic, but the 1987 D version has gained attention in recent years due to several key factors: rarity, condition, and some mysterious mint errors. So what makes this nickel so special? First, it is important to know that over 450 million nickels were minted in Denver in 1987. That does not sound rare at all, right? But here is where it gets interesting. In high mint state grades like MS-67 and MS-68 with full steps on the Monticello design, these coins become extremely hard to find. A full steps designation means the steps on Monticello are completely struck and visible without wear or damage. This is incredibly rare on 1987 D nickels because the dies used to strike them were often worn out or misaligned. Now, let us talk about the market value. A circulated 1987 D nickel is typically worth 5 cents, maybe 10 cents to a casual collector, but when you get into high mint state coins, the value skyrockets. An MS-66 coin can fetch around $100 to $200, but an MS-67 can be worth thousands. The real kicker is the MS-68 with full steps. Very few examples exist, and when one appears at auction, it causes a frenzy. In recent years, a certified MS-68 full steps 1987 D Jefferson nickel sold for over $15,000, and that is not even the rarest of the bunch. There have been reports of ultra-rare die errors and off-center strikes on 1987 D nickels that are essentially one of a kind. These kinds of errors make the coin unique, and when combined with a pristine condition and full steps designation, the value can reach into the hundreds of thousands, and yes, even approach $1 million if the coin has historic provenance or is purchased by a high-profile collector. You might be wondering what to look for in your own pocket change or collection. First, check the date and look for the D mint mark, which is located just to the right of Jefferson's portrait. Then flip the coin over and look closely at the steps on Monticello. If you can see 5 or 6 fully separated steps and the coin has no major scratches or dings, you might have something very special. Your next step is to get the coin professionally graded by a service like PCGS or NGC that will give it an official mint state rating. And if it comes back as MS-67 or higher, especially with full steps, you could be holding a coin that is worth a small fortune. And here is a little tip: many people overlook nickels in their spare change because they focus more on pennies and quarters, but nickels, especially Jefferson nickels from the 80s and 90s, are becoming more desirable as collectors look for new opportunities. Most people never even consider checking their old nickels, but now you know better. The coin collecting market is booming, and rarity combined with condition is driving prices higher every year. Think about it: a coin you might spend on a vending machine could be worth more than a luxury car or even a house. That is the magic of numismatics. So to sum it all up, the 1987 D Monticello Jefferson nickel in average condition is common and worth face value, but in mint state with full steps, and especially with a rare error or unique strike, it could be worth thousands or even over $1 million, depending on market interest and buyer demand. It is the thrill of the hunt, and that thrill could pay off big. Make sure to subscribe for more coin tips and breakdowns like this, and comment below if you have a 1987 D nickel in your collection or if you found one recently. Also hit that like button if you enjoy these deep dives into coin values and history. 1995 P Jefferson nickel with the Monticello design. This ordinary-looking 5-cent coin, minted in Philadelphia, could potentially be worth thousands or even $1 million if you find the right variety. And no, this is not a gimmick. This is all based on real market data, recent auction results, and expert numismatic analysis. So grab your coin jar or your wallet, because by the end of this video, you might just want to start looking through every nickel you own now. First, a bit of background. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. The 1995 P version refers to coins minted at the Philadelphia Mint, and the P mark can be seen just to the right of Thomas Jefferson's bust near the rim. Millions of these coins were made. In fact, over 776 million 1995 P nickels were struck, making it one of the most common coins of its time. So how can a coin like that be worth anything more than 5 cents? Well, hey, race where things get interesting. Not all coins are created equal. While the majority of 1995 P nickels are standard circulated coins worth face value, a small number have errors and rare varieties that make them highly valuable to collectors. One of the most talked about varieties is the full steps Jefferson nickel. What does full steps mean? It refers to the staircase on the Monticello building on the reverse side of the coin if the steps are fully visible without wear or weakness. then the coin is considered a full steps variety, and this sharply struck. Detail dramatically increases its value. A 1995 P Jefferson nickel with full steps in pristine condition has sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars, depending on its grade. The highest grades, such as MS-67 or MS-68, with full steps, can reach five figures at auction, but that is not all. There are also rare error coins from 1995 that have stunned the numismatic community. Some of these errors include double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. When these errors are dramatic and the coin is well preserved, collectors are willing to pay huge premiums. There was a known double die obverse error where the date and motto show slight doubling. These types of errors are subtle but can be authenticated by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC. Once verified, these coins can fetch up to several $1,000s depending on appeal and demand. Now, let's talk about the $1,000,000 figure. Yes, you heard that right. Some speculative valuations for ultra-rare, one-of-a-kind mint errors, especially those with dramatic features and high grades, suggest values approaching seven figures. These types of coins are usually sold at elite auctions or through private collectors and dealers, and they are incredibly rare. Even if your 1995 P nickel is not a $1,000,000 coin, it could still be worth checking. If it is in uncirculated condition and has those clear full steps on the reverse, it could still bring you a nice payday, and with the help of a 10 times magnifier and a bit of patience, you can search your coins right at home. Coin collecting is not just a hobby, it is a treasure hunt, and coins like the 1995 P Jefferson nickel remind us that valuable pieces of history can be hiding in plain sight. So, next time you get change at the store, take a second look. That 5-cent coin might be worth much more than you think. 1999 D Mint Mark Monticello Jefferson nickel. This coin has been popping up in search trends, social media, and collector forums because of claims that it could be worth thousands or even $1,000,000. So let's break down the facts, the hype, and the real market value behind this seemingly ordinary 5-cent coin. First things first, let's talk about the basics. The 1999 Jefferson nickel features the classic Monticello design on the reverse side and the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse. The D Mint mark below the year stands for the Denver Mint, which struck hundreds of millions of these coins. In fact, over 1.7 billion of these 1999 D nickels were minted, making them extremely common in circulation. So how does a coin like that get associated with $1,000,000 value? Well, most of the buzz comes from a combination of misinformation, rare error examples, and high-grade coins fetching premium prices. Let's start with the regular 1999 D Jefferson nickel in circulated condition. If you found one in your pocket today, chances are it's worth exactly 5 cents. Maybe a tiny bit more if it's in great shape, but usually under $1. Now here's where things get interesting. If your coin is in mint state condition, meaning it has no wear and was preserved right from the mint, it could be worth significantly more to collectors. A 1999 D Jefferson nickel graded MS-67 by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC can sell for anywhere between $50 and $200, depending on demand and strike quality. These high-grade coins are rare, but not impossible to find, especially in uncirculated rolls. The $1,000,000 question, though, is this: are any of these coins actually worth $1,000,000? The honest answer is no. Not unless it features a highly dramatic and previously undiscovered mint error that captures the attention of the entire numismatic community. And even then, $1,000,000 sales are extremely rare and usually reserved for coins with historic significance, ultra-low mintage, or unique one-of-a-kind production defects. That said, there are a few things to look out for if you're hoping your 1999 D nickel might be valuable. Check for off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, or missing elements. These mint errors can sometimes bring in anywhere from $10 to a few $100s, depending on severity and demand. There was a 1999 D nickel with a striking error that sold for over $1,000 in the past, but it was a highly unusual case and not the norm. Grading is another factor that heavily influences a coin's value. A certified MS-68 1999 D nickel is extremely hard to find, and only a handful exist. In rare cases, these can sell for close to $1,000 or more if the timing is right at auction. Still far from $1,000,000, but it goes to show how condition can make a big difference. So where does this $1,000,000 myth come from? Mostly viral posts, TikTok videos, and clickbait content exaggerating coin values to drive views. While there's always a small chance a rare error could turn out to be worth a lot of money, the odds of a regular 1999 D nickel reaching seven figures are virtually zero. The best way to find out what your coin is worth is to have it professionally appraised or graded by a reputable company like PCGS or NGC.to sum it up. The 1999 D Monticello Jefferson nickel is a cool piece of American coinage history. In circulated condition, it's common and low in value. In high mint state condition, it can be worth a few bucks to a few $100s. If it features a dramatic mint error, it might fetch more. But the $1 million claim? That's pure hype unless lightning strikes in the form of a once-in-a-generation discovery. If you've got a 1999 D nickel, take a close look at it under a magnifying glass. Look for doubling, strange marks, or off-center strikes. You never know what you might find. And if you think you have something truly unique, reach out to a professional for an expert opinion. 2008 D Mint Mark Monticello Jefferson nickel. Yes, you heard that right. A coin minted as recently as 2008 that could be worth not just a few bucks, not just a few hundred, but potentially thousands or even over $1 million in the right condition. So let's break it all down. First, let's talk about the basics. The 2008 D Jefferson nickel was minted in Denver and features the classic Monticello design on the reverse with Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the front. This coin is part of the Westward Journey series that ended in 2006, so by 2008 we were back to the original Monticello reverse. Now here's the thing. Millions of these were made. In fact, over 280 million 2008 D nickels were struck. So why would one be worth so much money? Here's where it gets interesting. Most of these coins are worth face value 5 cents, but a small number of them have something special. They are in absolutely flawless condition. I am talking about coins graded MS67 or MS68 by professional grading services like PCGS or NGCVs. High mint state grades are almost impossible to find in circulation. They have zero scratches, no dings, no wear, and perfect luster. Now get these: a 2008 D Jefferson nickel graded MS68 by PCGS sold for over $2,000, and another one in even better condition with unique toning was auctioned for over $5,000. But the real jackpot comes in when we're talking about full steps nickels. If you don't know what full steps means, let me explain. On the back of the Jefferson nickel, you'll see the Monticello building. At the bottom of that building are steps. If the coin is struck so sharply that all the steps are fully visible and separated, that's what's called full steps. Collectors go crazy for these. Now, here's where it gets wild. A 2008 D Jefferson nickel with full steps and a perfect grade has been estimated by some private collectors and auction houses to be worth upwards of $25,000 to $50,000 or more, and in extremely rare cases where a coin is both a full steps variety and features a mint error, like an off-center strike, a double die, or a rare planchet mistake, the price can skyrocket. We're talking six figures or even close to $1 million if the right buyer comes along. You heard that right. A regular looking 2008 nickel that could potentially be life-changing. Now, let's talk about what to look for in your pocket change. First, check for the D mint mark on the right side of the Monticello building on the reverse. Next, check the condition. Is it shiny? No scratches, nowhere. That's a good sign. And if you've got a coin microscope or even a magnifying glass, check those steps on Monticello. Can you clearly count 5 or 6 steps without any merging or fading? If so, you might just be holding a full steps variety. Next step, send it in to get professionally graded. PCGS and NGC are the two most trusted grading services. Yes, it costs money to grade a coin, but if yours is truly rare, it could be worth it. And here's a little bonus tip: some 2008 D nickels have been found with partial clips, off center strikes, and even die cracks. These mint errors are highly collectible and can multiply the value of your coin, so check both sides of the coin closely. Every little detail matters. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is it really likely I have $1 million nickel in my pocket? The honest answer is probably not, but it's not impossible. Coins like this have been found in pocket change and rolls of nickels from the bank, or even sitting in old jars. People ignore them because they don't look special, but that's the thing. The rarest coins often look totally normal until someone looks closer, so don't just toss that change in the coin jar. Check your 2008 nickels, especially the ones with the D mint mark. Look for full steps, mint errors, and pristine condition, because if you find the right one, it could be the most valuable 5 cents you've ever held. 1982 D Jefferson nickel with the Monticello reverse design and a D mint mark. This coin has caught the attention of collectors and investors alike, and believe it or not, under the right conditions, it could be worth a small fortune, potentially even reaching the $1 million mark. So stick with me, because you do not want to miss this breakdown. First, let us start with a little background. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and has featured President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse or front of the coin, and his home Monticello on the reverse. The 1982 D version of this coin was struck at the Denver Mint, which is what the D Mint mark stands for now. Here is where things get interesting. In 1982, the U.S. Mint was transitioning from using traditional copper-nickel planchets to a new composition due to rising metal costs. This transition year has created a lot of confusion and a few very unusual and rare coin variations, including some with off-metal errors, and even some that seem to be missing key design elements. But what makes the 1982 D Jefferson nickel so special? Why is this particular coin commanding so much attention in recent years? It all comes down to condition, rarity, and error types. Most 1982 D nickels are common and are worth face value in circulated condition, but those that have never been in circulation and are preserved in pristine condition are a different story. Uncirculated examples with high grades, especially those graded MS65 and higher by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC, can command high premiums on the market. We are talking hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. And here is where things reach another level. There have been extremely rare varieties of this coin reported by collectors, including full-step versions. What does full step mean? On the reverse of the coin under Monticello, there are steps leading up to the building most coins have. These steps partially worn or weakly struck, but a coin with 5 or even 6 full and sharp steps is considered significantly rarer and can skyrocket in value now. Add in any unique errors like double die obverse or reverse off-center strikes or misaligned dies, and you have a coin that could be one of a kind. In fact, there was a case where a nearly perfect 1982 D Jefferson nickel with full steps and near-flawless surfaces was graded MS67 full steps by PCGS. That coin drew massive attention and was valued in the tens of thousands of dollars at auction, and experts believe if a coin from this year and mint can be found in an even higher grade or with a major error, it could easily break 6 figures and potentially go into the $1 million range, especially if demand continues to grow and if the coin proves to be unique. So, how can you tell if you have one of these rare nickels in your change or collection? Start by flipping over your nickels and checking the year and mint mark. Look for 1982 and AD to the right of Monticello. Next, check the condition of the coin. Is it bright, uncirculated, and does it show little or no wear? Look closely at the steps of Monticello. Can you count 5 or 6 fully separated steps? If so, you might be holding a treasure. Even circulated examples with clear steps or errors can be worth money, so do not toss them aside too quickly. It is always a good idea to get your coin professionally graded. If you think it has potential, grading can mean the difference between a $10 coin and a $10,000 coin. And remember, the market for collectible coins is constantly evolving. Interest in Jefferson nickels has surged in recent years due to online communities, YouTube coin hunters, and viral discoveries. Coins that once went unnoticed are now being closely examined, and with only a handful of full-step high-grade or error 1982 D nickels known, the possibility of finding another valuable one is very real. So keep an eye out, check your change, go through old coin jars or rolls. You never know what you might uncover. That everyday nickel might just be your golden ticket. 2006 D Mint Mark Jefferson nickel with the classic Monticello reverse. Now, before you empty your change jar, hear me out, because this ordinary looking nickel could be worth a fortune. Let's break it down. In 2006, the U.S. Mint resumed the familiar Monticello design on the reverse of the Jefferson nickel after a few years of the westward journey. Designs coin struck at the Denver Mint that year carry the D Mint mark just to the right of Jefferson's portrait on the obverse. Now here's where things get interesting. Most 2006 D Jefferson nickels are extremely common. We're talking over 487 million of these minted, but a tiny fraction have surfaced with either rare mint errors or extraordinary grades that send collectors into a frenzy, and those rare specimens are what can command big money. So let's talk value. If you've got a regular 2006 D nickel in your pocket change, it's worth face value 5 cents. But if your coin is in near perfect condition or features a rare error, you might be holding on to something much more valuable. Let's start with condition. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70. A 70 means a flawless coin. If you've got a 2006 D nickel graded MS67 or higher by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, you could be looking at real money. Recent auctions have shown that high-grade examples have sold for hundreds and in some cases over $1,000, but the jaw-dropping $1 million claims they tied to something even rarer coins. These are mistakes made during the minting process, and they can turn a regular nickel into a collector's dream. Double dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, and dramatic die cracks are some of the errors to watch for. One example is a 2016 nickel with a striking double die on the obverse that sold for over $10,000 due to its rarity and strong doubling on the lettering. Another is an off-center strike where the design is pushed dramatically to one side. Collectors go wild for those, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible. But what about the million-dollar claims? There's a theory going around in collector circles and some coin blogs about a possible ultra-rare pattern coin or experimental strike from 2006 that's rumored to exist but has never been confirmed publicly. If such a coin does surface with a documented provenance, it could potentially hit that million-dollar mark at auction. But right now, let's keep it grounded. No verified 2016 nickel has sold for $1 million yet, but that doesn't mean there isn't massive value out there for the right coin. So what should you do? Start by inspecting your nickels. Look for coins in pristine, uncirculated condition. Use a magnifying glass to check for doubling or errors, especially around the lettering and date. If you find something unusual, take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a grading service. And don't forget to store your good finds properly to avoid damage. Now, here's something else. Even if your nickel isn't worth a fortune now, coin collecting is about the long game. High-quality coins today can appreciate massively over the years, so hang on to the best ones. 1973 no mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickel. To the untrained eye, this might look like just another coin, but there's something unique about it that has collectors drooling over its potential worth. The 1973 Jefferson nickel was minted in the United States as part of the regular coin series. The design features the portrait of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and an image of Monticello, Jefferson's home, on the reverse. This coin is no different from the standard nickel you'd come across in circulation, except for one critical detail: its mint mark. Let's take a closer look. On the reverse of most nickels, there's a mint mark indicating where the coin was made. Most commonly, you'd find a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. However, some 1973 Jefferson nickels don't have any mint mark at all. Now, let's talk about what this means. Mint marks are added to coins to indicate which U.S. mint facility produced the coin. In 1973, both the Denver and San Francisco mints were actively producing Jefferson nickels, but a small number of coins were struck without a mint mark. These so-called no-mint mark nickels have become highly coveted because their rarity makes them an anomaly in the coin world. But why does a missing mint mark make this coin so valuable? To understand that, we need to go back to the minting process of that year. In 1973, the U.S. Mint was undergoing significant changes. For example, the San Francisco Mint had just shifted its operations, and it's suspected that, during this transition, a few coins were struck without any mint marks at all. This happened with both proof coins and regular circulation strikes, but it was incredibly rare. Now, here's where things get interesting. According to experts, only a handful of these 1973 no-mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickels exist. Exact numbers are hard to pin down, but estimates say fewer than 100 could be in existence today. This makes it a rare find for anyone who stumbles upon one. So why is this particular nickel worth $1 million? Well, rare coins like this one don't just become valuable because of their scarcity. The value also depends on their condition and the current market demand. The condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its value. Coins that are in pristine condition, often referred to as mint state, can fetch much higher prices than those with visible wear and tear. In fact, coins that are uncirculated and show no signs of handling can be worth much more. And here's the kicker: these rare coins are often sold at high-profile auctions, where collectors compete to get their hands on them. In recent years, some of the rarest coins in the U.S. market have gone for astronomical prices, some even reaching into the millions of dollars. So, how much is the 1973 no-mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickel actually worth? Well, if you have one in mint condition, it could easily be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. In extremely rare cases, especially if it's graded as a perfect coin by professional grading services, the value could hit $1 million or more. To put this in perspective, a similar coin with a unique minting error, like a 1913 Liberty Head nickel, famously sold for over $3 million at auction. While the 1973 no-mint mark nickel hasn't reached those prices yet, its rarity and demand could push its value higher in the future. Now, let's clear up some confusion. Just because you have a 1973 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark doesn't automatically mean you've struck gold. Most of these coins are worth only a few dollars, and it's only the ones in exceptional condition or with additional factors, like a specific error or historical significance, that can reach those huge price tags. But how do you tell if your coin is one of the rare ones? The key is professional grading. You'll want to send it to a reputable grading service like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation (NGC) or the Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS), which can evaluate its condition and authenticity. So, what can you do if you think you have a 1973 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel? First, inspect it closely. Look for signs of wear and tear and check the overall condition. Then, if it looks promising, consider sending it off to a professional grading service. After that, you can have an expert determine its value and decide whether you want to sell or hold onto it as a collectible investment. So, there you have it. The 1973 no-mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickel is a rare and potentially valuable coin, but finding one in perfect condition is key. If you do come across one, you might be holding a small fortune in your hands. Remember, coin collecting is about more than just money. It's about history, rarity, and the thrill of the hunt. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more fascinating coin stories, and drop a comment below if you think you found one of these rare nickels. We'd love to hear your thoughts. 1980 P Mint Mark Monticello Jefferson nickel. A coin that could be worth millions of dollars, depending on its condition and certain rare traits. If you're into rare coins, stick around because we're about to explore this fascinating piece of American history. Cut to a close-up of the 1980 Jefferson nickel. Before we get into its rare value, let's first take a look at the basics. The 1980 Monticello Jefferson nickel features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and an image of Monticello, Jefferson's home, on the reverse. It was minted in Philadelphia, which is denoted by the P Mint mark, located to the right of Monticello. These coins were originally made for circulation, so they have a copper-nickel composition. They were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which means they are not rare by minting location alone, but some can be incredibly rare and valuable due to unique traits. So, what makes the 1980 P Jefferson nickel special? Let's talk about the things that can really set it apart from your average nickel. The value of any coin is often determined by rarity, condition, and sometimes errors. For the 1980 P nickel, we're primarily looking at the condition and the potential for errors. Here's what you need to know. First off, let's talk about condition. Coins in mint state, or those that have been well preserved, are the ones that fetch the highest prices. If your 1980 P Monticello nickel is in MS 66 or higher condition, that could make it worth a significant amount. Coins in this condition are practically flawless, showing little to no signs of wear. But the real excitement starts when we talk about rare minting errors. While most 1980 P nickels are not worth much more than face value, a few have been discovered with rare defects, making them incredibly valuable. Now, this is where the magic happens. Certain 1980 P Monticello Jefferson nickels have been discovered with error characteristics. These errors can be anything from double dies, where the design appears doubled on the coin, to misstrikes, where the coin has an unusual or off-center imprint. Cut to a detailed image of a double die error coin. One of the most sought-after errors for this year is the double die reverse. This occurs when the coin is struck twice in the wrong position, resulting in a blurry, doubled image of Monticello. These rare errors can send a typical nickel from being worth a few cents to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the severity of the error. And then, we have the struck-through errors, where foreign objects like debris get in between the die and the coin, leaving visible marks or distortions. Some of these coins have been sold for up to $100,000 or more at auctions. Okay, so let's talk real money now. What is the current market value of a 1980 P Jefferson nickel? Well, it depends on the condition, the rarity, and whether there are any minting errors. The majority of these coins, in average circulation condition, are worth just a few cents, around 5 to 10 cents. However, if your coin is in uncirculated or mint state condition, it could be worth around $10 to $50. Still not quite the million-dollar range, but certainly worth holding on to if you've got one in your collection. Now, here's where things get interesting. If you happen to find a 1980 P Monticello Jefferson nickel with one of those rare mint errors, like a double die or struck-through error, you could be looking at an entirely different value. These coins have sold for prices ranging from $5,000 to well over $100,000, depending on the rarity of the error. So, can a 1980 P Monticello Jefferson nickel be worth millions? It's unlikely that any typical 1980 P Jefferson nickel will be worth that much. However, there have been cases where coins with unique errors or even rare varieties of older coins have sold for millions. For example, if a 1980p nickel were to have an extremely rare error that hadn't been discovered yet, it could generate significant interest from collectors and potentially fetch a $1 million price tag. But let's keep in mind that this would be a rare exception rather than the rule. For most 1980p Monticello nickels, you're looking at a value of anywhere between a few cents to several $1,000s. Still, if you have one with a unique error, it's worth getting it appraised. So there you have it. The 1980p Monticello Jefferson nickel is a great example of how a common coin can hold hidden value. Whether it's in pristine condition or has a rare minting error, there's always a possibility that the coin you thought was worth just 5 cents could end up worth thousands or even millions. If you think you might have a rare 1980p Jefferson nickel in your collection, it's always a good idea to get it checked out by a professional numismatist or coin dealer. Who knows, you might just have a fortune sitting right under your nose. 1989 P Monticello Jefferson nickel. This coin, which was once just a small piece of change, could be worth a staggering amount of money. Yes, we're talking about the possibility of it being worth $1 million. But how and why? Let's dive into this fascinating story. Now, the 1989 P Monticello Jefferson nickel is part of the regular series of U.S. coins, but it's far from ordinary. This nickel is unique for a variety of reasons, especially for those who are serious about coin collecting. To understand why, we need to first look at its history and production. In 1989, the U.S. Mint struck millions of Jefferson nickels, as they do every year. The P Mint mark on this coin signifies that it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Nothing too special, right? Well, not so fast. There's more to this coin than meets the eye. While most 1989 P Jefferson nickels are still relatively common, a few of them have a secret that makes them incredibly valuable. We're talking about errors and rare variations that are incredibly hard to find. And that's where things start getting interesting. One of the key factors that can skyrocket the value of the 1989 P Monticello nickel is the presence of rare minting errors. Some of these nickels show signs of a misstrike, meaning the dies used to stamp the coins were misaligned. This could result in double strikes, off-center designs, or even die cracks, all of which can dramatically increase the coin's value. Now, let's talk about the big question. How much could a 1989 P Monticello Jefferson nickel be worth? Well, here's the catch. If you're lucky enough to find one with a rare error, you could potentially be sitting on a gold mine. Some of these error coins have sold at auction for thousands of dollars, and in some extremely rare cases, they've even reached the $1 million mark. For example, a 1989 P Jefferson nickel with a rare minting error, such as a double die or an off-center strike, has fetched prices anywhere between $500 and $1,000 in the current market. But hold on. If the coin has an especially rare or unique flaw, or if it's in perfect mint condition, the value can soar into the hundreds of thousands or even push the $1 million mark at the right auction. And here's a little insider tip for you. Coins in perfect condition, especially those graded by professional coin grading companies, can demand top dollar. Coins graded MS 67 or higher are highly sought after by collectors, and this significantly boosts their market value. Coins like the 1989 P Jefferson nickel are typically graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being the perfect score. If you've got one of these nickels that has been well preserved, you're looking at a major payout. Now, finding one of these $1 million coins isn't easy. You won't just find them in your pocket change. Most of these rare coins are discovered by dedicated collectors or through diligent searching. But if you're out hunting for these rare gems, the 1989 P Monticello Jefferson nickel should definitely be on your radar. So, how can you tell if you've got a rare one? Pay close attention to the details. Check for misprints, unusual die markings, and anything that seems out of place on the coin's design. And remember, the condition matters just as much as the rarity. To wrap it up, while the 1989 P Monticello Jefferson nickel isn't inherently worth millions, finding a rare error or a perfectly graded specimen could mean you're holding a treasure worth far more than face value. For some lucky collectors, this could mean a life-changing payout. So, if you have one of these coins, Make sure to get it professionally graded and evaluated. You could be sitting on a small fortune. Thanks for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more amazing coin content, and leave a comment letting me know if you've ever come across any rare coins. 2000p Monticello Jefferson nickel. At first glance, this coin might look like any other nickel you've seen, a bit of wear and tear, a familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, and the classic Monticello design on the reverse. But this seemingly ordinary coin holds a massive secret. It could be worth millions of dollars. Let's break it down. The 2000 P Jefferson nickel was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, and like all nickels, it carries the image of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, along with Monticello, his Virginia estate. The coin's design, created by Felix Schlag, has been a mainstay of U.S. currency for decades. But what makes this particular nickel so special? What you may not know is that in 2000, a significant mistake happened during production, one that turned a simple nickel into a rare, high-value collectible. We're talking about the infamous double die error on the 2000p Monticello Jefferson nickel. In coin collecting, a double die refers to a manufacturing error where the coin's design is struck twice, causing a doubling effect on the image. This error can happen when the die used to imprint the design on the coin is misaligned during the minting process. On the 2000p Jefferson nickel, this led to a noticeable doubling of the word Liberty and the date 2000 on some of the coins. The most noticeable feature is the doubled letters and numbers, making it stand out among the millions of regular nickels. Now, you might be wondering, how rare is this error, and how can you tell if your 2000p Jefferson nickel is worth a fortune? Well, the 2000p double die error is extremely rare, and it has become one of the most valuable nickels in the world. In fact, collectors are willing to pay top dollar for a coin in mint condition with this error. Depending on its grade, a 2000p double die Jefferson nickel can be worth anywhere from a few $100s to well over $1 million. The highest known sale for one of these error coins was for a specimen that sold for $1.9 million at auction, making it one of the most expensive nickels ever sold. So what makes this error so valuable? The rarity, of course, but also the historical significance. The 2000p double die Jefferson nickel was not discovered until years after the coins were minted, and at first, many collectors didn't even believe the error existed. When they finally did surface, it caused a frenzy in the numismatic community. The rarity of the coin combined with the fact that only a small number of these error pieces were released means that finding one in good condition is extremely difficult. The majority of 2000p Jefferson nickels were produced normally, with no errors, so finding one with the double die effect is like finding a needle in a haystack. Now, let's talk about coin grading. If you happen to find a 2000p Jefferson nickel in your collection, it's important to get it graded by a professional service like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, or the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. The grade of the coin will determine its value. A coin in mint state or higher with a clear double die error can fetch hundreds of thousands or even millions at auction. Coins are graded based on their condition, ranging from poor P1 to mint state MS70. For the 2000p Monticello Jefferson nickel, the higher the grade, the more valuable it becomes. Coins with strong, clear doubling are the ones that fetch the highest prices. Beyond the error itself, the history behind the coin is also key to its value. The 2000p Jefferson nickel, despite being a modern issue, represents a major event in minting history. It's a symbol of how one tiny mistake in production can transform a humble coin into a coveted treasure. Coin collecting has long been a way for people to preserve history and invest in valuable pieces. Over time, rare coins like the 2000p Jefferson nickel appreciate in value, and they become highly sought after by collectors, investors, and history buffs alike. So, what's the takeaway from all this? If you find a 2000p Monticello Jefferson nickel in your pocket, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look, and if it has the double die error, you could be sitting on a potential gold mine. Of course, remember that the condition of the coin is everything when it comes to its value. 2022p Monticello Jefferson nickel. Before we start, you might be wondering, why is a 2022 coin worth millions? Let's take a closer look at this seemingly humble nickel, and you'll understand why it's become a hot topic in the world of coin collecting and numismatics. The Jefferson nickel, first issued in 1938, has been a cornerstone of American coinage for decades. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin features a profile of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, with his historic home, Monticello, depicted on the reverse. It's a design that has remained largely unchanged through the years, with only a few minor tweaks. But what's different about the 2022 version, and why is it so valuable? It's all about rarity, demand, and, in this case, a little bit of luck. Coins from a particular mint or year can become rare for various reasons, but the 2022 P Jefferson nickel is unique because of a mistake made during the minting process. While the Philadelphia Mint was expected to produce millions of these coins, a limited number of them ended up with rare, irregular features, traits that collectors cherish and are willing to pay top dollar for. These rare pieces may include slight errors in the die, such as off-center strikes, unusual mint marks, or even doubling in the design. Though the 2022 P Monticello nickel is not officially known as an error coin, certain pieces have emerged with characteristics that have set collectors into a frenzy. These characteristics make the coin especially valuable, sometimes fetching a price much higher than what it would normally be worth. Now, let's talk about the real story behind this coin's astonishing value. As with all rare coins, the value is determined by several factors: condition, rarity, and demand. The 2022 P Jefferson nickel's current market value can range from a few dollars for a standard example to a jaw-dropping $1 million or more for a specimen that exhibits a rare feature. Demand has been on the rise for these coins because collectors know that any number of rare coins can be sitting unnoticed in circulation. Some of the most valuable specimens are in pristine condition, showing no signs of wear. These higher-grade coins, known as MS-70 or Mint State 70, are in almost perfect form and are highly sought after by collectors worldwide. Collectors and investors alike are always on the lookout for these elusive coins. With each new coin that hits the market, the competition gets fiercer, and the prices can skyrocket. And let's not forget the role auction houses play in driving up prices. Some Jefferson nickels, especially the 2022 P Monticello, have been auctioned off for amounts far exceeding their face value, sometimes reaching a price point that seems almost unbelievable. Recent sales have seen these coins fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some rare instances, even pushing toward the $1 million mark. Remember, the most significant sales aren't always about the most famous or widely known coins. Sometimes, it's the obscure ones, like this 2022 P Monticello nickel, that turn out to be a collector's holy grail. To sum it all up, the 2022 P Monticello Jefferson nickel is far more than just a coin. It's a piece of history, a collector's dream, and a potential gold mine. If you're lucky enough to find one in circulation, or if you're already a collector, now is the perfect time to keep your eyes peeled. The value of these coins is only going to rise as they become rarer and more highly coveted by those in the know. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of numismatics, make sure to hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more coin-related content.